Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome to the first Ravnica Allegiance premiere draft on my channel. So, here we have some interesting Gruul uncommons, Rhythm of the Wild and Clan Guildmage. These are both quite good. I think I like Rhythm of the Wild a little bit better. The Guildmage's effects are just a little bit mana intensive for what they do, I feel. One of my least favorite guild mages. We do have a great common in black, the Blade Juggler. This can draw a card when it comes into play. It does do a damage to you to do it, but if you're paying this for the spectacle cost for only 3 mana, this is a fantastic card, and even at 5 mana it's super fine. I like Rubblebelt Recluse. It's just a big chonky creature for the cheap mana cost. Both of our Orzhov commons are great. Final Payment and Grasping Thrall, and then there's like Dead Rebels is a good black common. So I think here, I kind of want to just roll with the Rhythm of the Wild. I mean, it's the rarest actually good card in the pack. The one that I think we'll get the least often to play around with. And it's just a fun card. All of your creatures can't be countered, so you don't have to worry about any of that Azorius shenanigans. And all of your creatures also have Riot. So that means that they come into play with a +1/+1 counter or haste. So this can lead into some really, really aggressive curves. But most of the time, you're just going to be putting +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures for the rest of the game, so kind of just a permanent Anthem effect, which is really nice. And getting past the Clan Guildmage is pretty much perfect. Now we just get two pretty good uncommon Gruul cards in a row. Don't mind if I do. There are some good cards in other colors here. Ill-Gotten Inheritance is pretty scary. It's going to drain life from your opponent and slowly win the game that way. Azorius Night Arbiter is pretty similar. It blocks really well, and just Vigilance being unblockable just chips away at your opponent. I think those are my two favorite other cards in here. Clear the stage. Let's see. Yeah, that can potentially be pretty nice as well, but that requires a lot of working around to get going. Definitely going to take Clan Guildmage here. And now we have Frenzied Erranx, which is pretty much the best Gruul common creature. It's just really efficient for its mana cost. 4 mana for a 4/4 trample that also has an ability to pump itself and become even more powerful is really nice. Curving into the Erranx off of Rhythm of the Wild is insane, because then turn 3 Rhythm of the Wild, turn 4 we have either a 4/4 haste trample coming in, or just a 5/5 trample waiting till next turn. So Erranx is quite nice. Rubblebelt Runner is okay, but it's definitely not quite as good as the stat line on the Frenzied Erranx. Solana Wayfinder is a thing as well. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, pick a creature or land from among them, put it on top of your library. This is interesting because it lets you filter to what you need out of your top cards, but it doesn't actually let you draw it immediately, so it doesn't put you up in card advantage. It's kind of like scrying, so it's fine, but I do like the Erranx a bit better, I would say. So probably just going to roll with that. There's Titanic Brawl as well, which is nice. Instant speed, Prey Upon, in a Gruul deck with a lot of Riot, or just in green. Simic's ability, Adapt, is an ability to allow you to pay a bunch of extra mana to put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on one of your creatures, so that can be pretty good for that reason there. So I think out of this pack, I'm probably going to roll with Skewer the Critics. It's just the best red common here. Efficient removal. You can pay it for red if you Spectacle, so if you hit your opponent in that turn. But even for 3 mana for 3 damage to any target is super fine. Scorchmark is a little bit worse, just because it does less damage total. But the plus side of Scorchmark is that it's instant speed, and it can exile whatever it hits, so it can shut off Orzhov's Afterlife ability, so whatever you're hitting with that gets permanently exiled, so they don't get their creature tokens when their Afterlife cards die. But yeah, I think Skewer the Critics is just the best removal there. I was thinking about taking the Big Old Giant, but I think I'm okay without it, because there will be plenty of other sturdy creatures in Gruul to pick up, like Rubblebelt Recluse here. I'm going to take Rubblebelt Recluse over the Wrecking Beast, because Rubblebelt Recluse is a card you're going to cast much more often, because 5 mana is a lot cheaper than 7 mana in terms of how often you're playing it, because every land you have to draw after like the 4th just gets increasingly harder to get. So once you get to like the difference between 5 and 7 mana, that's a lot like larger than the difference between like 1 and 3 mana, I feel. So Wrecking Beast is good, but it's a card I only need like 1 of at the top end, 1 or 2 if we have a lot of ramp. Plus, they go pretty late in the packs, so I can probably pick them up later. For that reason, I'm probably going to roll with the Rubble Belt Runner over the Wrecking Beast here. Just because I think I can pick up those Wrecking Beasts later. And the Rubble Belt Runner is interesting in that it can get past any of Orzhov's Afterlifing Flying Spirit tokens, so you don't have to worry about that annoying stuff. I don't really like Deface, and I don't love Steeple Creeper. Even if I have blue mana, I feel like this card's just okay, and we probably won't have blue mana, so I kind of want to just pick up a Guildgate just in case. If we get any Gate Colossuses or Rubble Belt Rams or Rubble Breaker Rams, something like that. Oh wait, no, Gatebreaker Ram. I get all the names mixed up when I get back into a set. It's been a while. But yeah, if we get any of the cards that care about gates, we're okay to take gates that are like off color by 1. Like as long as it has one of our 2 colors, red or green in it, they're cards that we would play even if we didn't have any blue cards in our deck if we had the cards that cared about us having gates. Here I think I'll take a Gore Clan Wrecker. 4 mana for a 3/3 menace or 4 mana for a 2/2 haste menace. Just 4 mana 3/3 menace usually is pretty good. I don't often like playing it with haste, but it's got the versatility if we need the haste, and here's going to be a very easy Gruul Guildgate. We're not going to take the land destruction spell. Now we'll take another Simic Guildgate. That's a pretty late Night Arbiter for the Azorius players. Pretty exciting. And now we're just down to the poop in the pack. I suppose I'll take a Storm Strike, but I'm pretty unlikely to play that. And a very late Gruul Guildgate here. A really late Syndicate Messenger, too. This card is a lot better than it looks. It does look pretty unexciting at first glance, pretty unassuming. 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer, it's like just whatever. But the Afterlife ability makes it just really powerful. You just play this, trade with something that they had, and then you're getting a spirit out of it. You're trading even with flying creatures. It's really easy to underlook the value that you get out of just pooping out a 1/1 token when your thing dies. But it does really add up. Let's see what we get in pack 2 here, but I'm very excited about the prospects of this Gruul deck starting out. That is an Azorius? I'm getting the guilds mixed up too. That is an Orzhov Mythic Rare, something we cannot play in this deck, but it is so powerful. 4 mana for a 4/3 flying with Afterlife too. That's already just bonkers ridiculous. But it can also give itself Vigilance or Death Touch until end of turn. So good. That being said, we have 2 really good green commons here, Soroform Hybrid and Rampaging Rendhorn. Just 5 mana 5/5 or 5 mana 4/4 haste, nice and versatile. And the Soroform Hybrid is super nice because you play it as a 2 mana 2/2, and then if it's still around in the late game, now you've got your 6 mana 6/6. So these are both very nice cards, but Soroform Hybrid is definitely the better one. It is just the best green common in the set. What do we have here? We do have a Dagger Caster, which is interesting. It can clear out all of our opponent's Afterlife tokens. The best color scheme for Dagger Caster is easily Rakdos, because in Rakdos you have Blade Brand, which is a 2 mana instant to give something Death Touch till end of turn and draw a card. If you manage to Blade Brand with Dagger Caster, you just wipe your opponent's field, and that is easily the best thing you can do with that card. It's pretty sick. Don't think it's going to be perfect for our deck here, so I'm not really going to take the Dagger Caster. I think I'm just going to go with another nice little damage-based removal spell, Scorch Mark, 2 to a creature. If it would die this turn, exile it instead. It's going to help us against like really fast Rakdos decks, because our curve's probably going to be higher in general. We're going to be playing big creatures later, so it'll help us survive against those decks. And then with Orzhov, it'll help us make sure they're not getting value off of their afterlife effects. Oh, ho, 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 that feels so good. The two people on our left were not in Gruul, and there's nothing really else that we're missing out on by taking Domri. I guess there's a Rendhorn, but that will probably wheel, and we'll be fine. So Domri's just a Planeswalker. Planeswalkers are by default going to be ridiculous. 4 mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. At a +1, you can get a red or green. And if you spend that on a creature spell against Riot, for -3, you look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 creatures from among them into your hand, the rest onto the bottom, and -8, you get an emblem where you're making a bunch of 4/4 green beasts with trample at the beginning of each end step. So Domri's actually not that aggressive. Domri doesn't like put any creatures out by himself unless you make it to the ultimate, but that's just a lot of value off of that minus ability, drawing multiple cards off of it. And yeah, it's a Planeswalker. I'm just not going to pass it. We do have a Light Up the Stage and a Rubble Slinger here. Rubble Slinger's pretty good at just filling out the curve and being able to block Azorius flying stuff. But Light Up the Stage can be a pretty good draw spell, especially if you're pretty aggressive. Don't know for sure how quick our curve is going to go. I feel like with Rhythm of the Wild, we want a lot of stuff coming in after that. And we already do have kind of a mid-range curve here. Rubble Slinger is just pretty filler, though, so I guess I will take Light Up the Stage. Because the other thing about Light Up the Stage, it's not like it's only good if you can cast it really early. If you just top deck this in the late game, even if your deck is full of mostly expensive stuff, it's just good at that point, too. Because that's when you'll have the extra mana to play around with. I think this is a pretty easy Gatebreaker Ram. That is why we were taking these random Simic Guild gates, because now we're just going to play those, most likely. But I suppose if Gatebreaker Ram is literally the only gate payoff we have, we could cut the Simic Guild gates. But if we see like a single gate Colossus, we'll keep them in and have fun with both of them. So yeah, Gatebreaker Ram can very easily just become much bigger than it should be for the mana cost. Like 3 mana for a 4/4 Vigilance Trample is ridiculous, and you only need 2 gates to hit that. Let's see what we have here. Regenesis is just a bit slow. It does potentially give you a lot of card advantage, but just find it too slow for my tastes. It's between the Guildgate and the Scorchmark. I do already have a Scorchmark and a Skewer the Critics. I think we could use more. I mean, you can never have too much just good, efficient removal like that. But at the same time, I do love me some gates, and I have 1 gate build around. I'm going to scoop up the Gruul Guildgate. If that were any other Guildgate, I would just take the Scorchmark there. But the fact that it's the on-color Guildgate and also helps our Gatebreaker Ram makes me actually just want to take that. These are pretty whatever. I guess I'll take well, Rakdos Guildgate is on one of our colors. It is just a red come into play tapped land that feeds into any gate payoff cards. Now we've got nothing, so I guess I'm just going to take the highest rarity card here. Could take Get the Point. I could splash that in, but I don't super want to splash here. So I'm just taking the highest rarity cards to help fill the vault faster. If there's like nothing that'll end up playing. Wow, Grotesque Demise and Get the Point here. That's pretty insane. I didn't think Rakdos would be that open. Chillbringer's quite nice too, though, in blue. There's just some great cards here. For everything but Gruul. That's okay. People passed a Domri. There's no way Gruul is incredibly heavily drafted right now. We do get a Daggercaster pretty late. Again, not perfect with our color scheme, but it's still fine. Pretty insane to see Blade Juggler still around. Definitely think Rakdos is the most open guild at our table. Oh, I totally forgot that that green-blue card, actually, we should have taken that instead of the Guildgate, probably. Because that was a hybrid card and not just a straight-up multicolored card, so we could play that off of mono-green in our deck. The big old Scuttlegator thing. Feel we're generally unlikely to. Hey, we open a Gruul Rare. 3 mana for a 4/4 Trample, and as long as it's your turn, the Spellbreaker and us have hexproof, so that's pretty great. Zertog Goblin's great as well. 2 mana for a 3/3. Most of the Riot cards, the vast majority of the time, are just better as getting the +1/+1 counter, but it is nice to be able to give haste when you're like really trying to beat down. I think we're just taking the Spellbreaker here. 3 mana 4/4 trample is just kind of insane with the added hexproof. It's not permanent hexproof, so it's not like ridiculous, but it's fine. Other cards I like here are Scorchmark and Titanic Brawl. I would love if any of these 4-wheel, really. Titanic Brawl, Scorchmark, Zertog Goblin, or Rebel Belt Recluse. Do have a Savage Smash. That is pretty great removal. Growth Chamber Guardian's not that insane as a rare for... wow, there's actually... there's so many picks here. So Growth Chamber Guardian is good. It's just not as insane as it is in Standard. So 2 mana for a 2/2, and then for 3 mana you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Just pretty good and limited. It turns into a 4/4 when you have the 3 mana. So just immediately the next turn. That's pretty fast, pretty aggressive. Great card. Savage Smash, target creature control gets +2/+2 and fights a creature an opponent controls. That's really good on the aggressive because you're pumping up your creature before you fight with it. So you're basically guaranteed to kill one of your opponent's creatures without losing one of yours. And then after that, you're obviously going to be attacking in, so you're getting that extra damage from that ability. And then there was Gates Ablaze. And Gates Ablaze is just a board wipe if you have enough gates in your deck. And I'm already kind of drafting a lot of gates for Gatebreaker Ram, so I've got a ton of gates in here, so Gates Ablaze is actually just going to be ridiculous in this deck. And then we immediately get past another on-color Guildgate with the Gruul Guildgate. I am going to take this over Titanic Brawl, which does feel a little weird because we could use a Titanic Brawl in this deck, but at the same time, I'm looking for more gates, and the more Gruul Guildgates I get, now I can actually start cutting off-color Guildgates that don't exactly do much. We're getting some very hard choices at the end here. We have Enraged Ceratok, really decent creature for the mana cost. 4 mana, 4/4/4, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, which is very important against Orzhov. Orzhov has some little baby Death Touchers that are power 2 or less that you really don't want to get blocked by, and it has all of the 1/1 flying tokens and stuff. Scorchmark, again, great instant speed efficient removal, and then Electro Dominance, which could potentially do just a ton of damage at instant speed, and you get to cast something else. I'm going to go with the auto picker here. I'm going to scoop up the Electro Dominance, but I don't love having to pass those other cards that are also pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. And now we have a Gate Colossus. All right. I am passing a light up the stage here, but that does not feel as bad as passing all the stuff we did last pack, so this is definitely not as hard of a pick. We're going to scoop up a Gate Colossus. This card costs 1 less for each gate we control, and every time we play a gate, if it's in our graveyard, we just get to put it back on top of our library and have our giant 8/8 again. And now we can take a Skewer the Critics. We are definitely Guildgates.deck now. Flames of the Razeboar is a decent card, but I think we still definitely want the Guildgate over it. We're just so in on that now. I could take a Wrecking Beast for the top end of this curve. I could also just use like a Gore Clan Wrecker in the middle. I'm going to take the Wrecking Beast. We do get one of the Titanic Brawls. I'll absolutely take that. Our curve is pretty scary. We don't really have anything at 1 or 2, so I guess I'm taking the Cat, and I'll probably end up having to run it. So I actually just have some early game blockers. But I suppose turn 1, we're playing a tapped land turn 1 every game, so we can definitely take these out. Caretaker I might still want for the mana though. We'll see. I doubt I'm going to get anything else playable. Now that the packs are getting so small, we're going to have 4 cards left here. Well, I did. I got a Burning Tree Vandal that is not unplayable. It's actually pretty decent. Every time it attacks, you get to discard a card to draw a card, so it helps you filter away any extra lands when you don't need them, or filter away stuff like Wrecking Beast if you're stuck on lands, and you've drawn your late game stuff in the early game. So card is quite good. Not going to run an Orzhov Guildgate. I'm not in enough on gates to be running ones that don't tap for any color I care about. But I might care enough about gates to actually run maybe like one Rakdos, one Simic or something like that. I don't really feel like I want to run all of these, because then we just have so many come to play tapped lands that our deck is going to be very slow. I suppose we do have a little bit of stuff to try to not die if we're against an aggressive deck. And all of our lands are just sitting here coming to play tapped. I mean, especially Gates Ablaze, that's just the best thing we can do. But other than that, we have Scorchmark, 2 Skewer the Critics. Got a decent amount of efficient removal to try to stay alive. And if we do that, then just having a giant stack of come to play tapped lands is going to be good just for the gate payoffs. I only need to cut one card here because I have so many gates in this deck. I suppose maybe the Caretaker. This does look like a deck that might want to ramp up, but at the same time, our curve is really a stack of 3s and like a few 4s. I don't like super need the ramp. Yeah, I think I want to cut Caretaker there, because we have so many come to play tapped lands that Caretaker's probably going to be like a turn 2 play most of the time anyway. Because we're just going to play Guildgate turn 1, turn 2, we can go like Forest Caretaker. Or I guess we could play the Caretaker and play a second Guildgate on turn 2. So maybe we'd still want it just for something to do in the early turns, but we're just Gruul. Our mana base is super easy. We're never going to be stuck off of a certain color, that's for sure, with 5 Gruul Guildgates. And then the 2 Simic Guildgates are basically just 2 more forests. The 3 Rakdos Guildgates are just 3 mountains. They're just worse mountains and worse forests to help Gate Colossus and Gatebreaker Ram. You know, I probably don't want so many. I'm going to cut like 1 Rakdos Guildgate. I'm still going to... Alright, that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to cut anymore. I'm going to cut a single off-color Guildgate. That's it. Other than that, I'm going all in on it. We're just going to have a mountain of come to play tapped lands here, because I just want that value. I'll keep this. It is a slow mana base, and a slow hand in general because of that, but that's just kind of how the deck is built. We'll have to run with it. We do have the Feral Mock on turn 2, which is more than we'll have the vast majority of the time in terms of early game plays. Opponent starts with a Fireblade Artist, almost definitely going to Scorchmark that. I suppose I do get to play a creature first, so I could potentially offer a trade with the Fireblade Artist. So this works really well with a lot of Afterlife creatures, and that is the overlap between Rakdos and Orzhov. In black there are Afterlife creatures, obviously, because Orzhov is white-black. So let's hope they don't get any creature token shenanigans going on here. Goblin Gathering? Goblin Gathering is a really fun deck to try to build, so I hope my opponent just went all in. That would be pretty cool. So 4 mana here. Each one of these goblins does get to start doing 2 damage to me because of Fireblade Artist. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and Scorchmark the Artist just right now so I don't have to worry about that ability at all. I was considering just playing Frenzied Erranx because, like, at this point in the game it's early enough I can just take the damage, but against a Rakdos deck I think I want to just play super defensively. If the game goes long enough, I think we've got a lot more cards with just staying power in general. For that reason, I might just skewer the Hackrobat right now, because that is another card that's going to be pretty scary. It attacks as a 4/1, and it can get Death Touch. So I would have to trade with the Erranx, because if I block with the Maka, they can just not use the ability, and then they have a 2/3 against my 2/2. I'm going to go ahead and skewer that. Just going to take it nice and slow. I wonder if they've gone completely all in. There are some cards that don't really see play in any deck except the very specific strategy that you're going for. Like Cavalcade of Calamity is just not going to be played in any deck except one that has 1,000,000 Goblin Gatherings in it, so hopefully they didn't get like the Cavalcades and stuff. I really want a Rhythm of the Wild before I play Frenzied Erranks, and the best way to do that, to be efficient with my mana, would be to Electro Dominance the Blade Juggler and then drop a Rhythm of the Wild, but then Electro Dominance is not in my hand anymore for potentially killing a bigger creature. At the same time, I'm only at Electro Dominance for 3 right now. It's going to be a while before it gets any bigger, and right now it's the exact same size as Skewer the Critics. I'm going to just make the most efficient use I can of my mana. Set up for a pretty big turn next turn, making an Erranks a 5/5. Could obviously blow up in my face, but in Rakdos I don't expect too many very big creatures that would be able to survive like a Screw the Critics anyway. And it has gotten to the point where my opponent is willing to Grotesque Demise our 2/2. So I'll take that. Smelt Ward Ignis. Sacrifice it, gain control of a creature with power 3 or less until end of turn. So it can't take a Frenzied Erranks, which is good. Let's just suit up our Erranks as a really big threat. We also have the mana to pump it, so it'll attack as a 8/5 trample if we want to. Our opponent does have a get the point to destroy it and scry 1 here. Get some more damage in off the attack. This is the biggest downside of the Rhythm of the Wild, is that I might actually want haste here. Yeah, I'm actually going to go with haste here, so I can get value out of this even if it dies immediately. But yeah, the biggest downside of the Rhythm of the Wild is that it isn't... it doesn't add anything to your board by itself, it just affects how big your other cards are. So you're somewhat like down a card when you play it, if your opponent is just running a bunch of targeted removal. So that's got me a little worried. Can't attack in there because they played the second Goblin Gathering, and now they have 1,000,000 goblins, and yeah, it looks like they are running just a bunch of targeted removal, so we might have a big problem with this deck. Land is definitely not going to get us out of this one. We are going to take 5 and lose our first round, unfortunately. Just didn't draw into a whole lot there, and the two decently sized creatures that we did have that game, our opponent did have the 2 removal spells for. Sad way to start it off, but I still like this deck. I feel like we can definitely take it back, get some wins here, see what we can do. I'm definitely looking forward to, at the very least here, even if I lose every round, playing against a variety of guilds. That's what I want to do. And kind of just get back into the format, see what everybody's running, see what kind of strategies are available and what's working out well. I'm going to keep this hand. Whoa. Ceruli Caretaker starts it off for our opponent. I am going to drop a Simic Guildgate. And pass the turn. Next turn we have a Clan Guildmage or a Sauroform Hybrid. Those are both pretty great, and they would definitely draw removal spells out if our opponent has them. I'll move Electro Dominance over to the super high mana cost slot because I don't want to play that until I have a bunch of mana. As soon as I hit any land, I've got the mana for Skewer the Critics. Get rid of an early game creature. Got a Dagger Caster coming up, but against a green deck, that's pretty much guaranteed to not do much. Both the Gruul and Simic are just some beefy creatures. And it looks like our opponent is on Simic, starting with the Sage's Row Savant. Well, there you go. That's a 1 toughness creature right there. There's at least 1 card for our Dagger Caster to kill. Dagger Caster is at its best against Orzhov and Rakdos. Rakdos is just a lot of very aggressive creatures, so there are some really quick ones that are just like 2/1s and stuff. But Orzhov is really, that is the one. You just clear out all their tokens. Get that stuff out of the sky. So I'm very far away from turning Sauroform Hybrid into a 6/6 right now, so I want to just drop Clan Guildmage, because I'd actually be less sad about Clan Guildmage dying than I would about Sauroform Hybrid. Because the way you have to think about it is, would I rather have my 2/2 with 2 okay abilities die, or my 6/6 die? I would rather have just the 2/2 die. I'd rather have access to a 6/6 later in the game. So just putting out the most fragile creature first. It looks really scary too. Those abilities look quite scary, but that's the thing about this Guildmage. Every time I use it, I just feel like I'm never going to activate either of these abilities. They are very good in the specific instances where you would want to activate them, but I feel like those instances don't come up super often. Like your opponent just having like 1 blocker and you having a decently sized creature you're trying to push through. Stuff like that. Opponent does have the Arrester's Admonition to slow us down. Card is pretty good. It's been slowing us down all day. Not really, I think that's our first one we've seen. But I definitely remember playing against that card a ton. I'm actually going to tap out for Burning Tree Vandal here. And I could give it haste to discard this Wrecking Beast, make sure I draw my 4th land. I kind of like that. I actually like really want to just start looting here. The only issue with this, obviously, is only having 2 power means they can just freely block it with the Caretaker, which is a little sad. But actually, next turn, this sets up really nice into another attack next turn. Next turn, I can attack with the Vandal, and then main phase 2, play my Dagger Caster, and that would kill the Caretaker and the Sage's Row Savant. This, of course, only works out if they don't play a creature that blocks it really well. If they play like a 4/4, then that's very bad for me, like an Enraged Ceratok or something. Then we're definitely not on the Dagger Caster plan. Opponent drops a Shimmer of Possibility, trying to draw into something to play. They have 2 mana up with Caretaker and their land, but in order to get the mana out of Caretaker, they'll have to tap Savant, so I don't see it happening. Yep, alright, so we are going to do the... Oh, I could just play Domri right now, but I don't actually think I want to. Because if I play Domri, I'm just going to minus Domri to draw a couple cards, and Domri will be sitting at 2, which means they'll attack Domri with Sage's Row Savant. I'll have to trade with Vandal. I want to get my good value turn out of the Dagger Caster here. The problem is, what am I discarding to the Burning Tree Vandal? Probably nothing. Just get no value out of this, but then this looks really suspicious, but I'll do it anyway. Please block. Yeah, that is the biggest issue with this play. Is that if I'm not discarding something to draw a card, it looks so suspicious. Because then it's like, well, why are you attacking then? That being said, if they don't take the block here, I can just cast Clan Guildmage and Sauroform Hybrid. Then we just don't Dagger Caster this turn, and we're fine. Alright. I can also skewer the Caretaker. That doesn't seem worth it. I guess it stops them from playing a 5 mana card next turn. No, I think I'm fine. I'll just drop the Hybrid. It is really weird going into this set, just still with Guilds of Ravnica mindset so ingrained because I drafted that set so many times. Where I drafted Golgari probably just more than any other guild. That's why I accidentally said Morst. So I'm sitting here thinking like, why don't you just trade my guild mage for the Savant? It's like, why on earth would I want to do that in a Gruul deck? I'm so used to just Golgari decks just being like, yeah, trade, throw it all in the grave, whatever. That is not what I want to do here, though. I have Daggercaster to kill Savant later. If they attack, I just no block. But, yeah, I was definitely doing some off-stream drafts. Actually 7-0'd with a Golgari deck one time, where I was consistently, every game, like if my opponent just had like a Goblin Locksmith or Child of Night or just any 2-mana 2/1, and they attacked into my Golgari Guildmage, my Swarm Guildmage, I was just like, whatever, trade. Whatever, trade, because I had like 3 Rhizome Lurchers and stuff, so I wanted to fill my grave. Alright, if I Daggercaster here, I get to just send in. My opponent is obviously going to be drawing a bunch of cards this game, so they're going to be going for that late game value. So I probably just try to get as aggressive as possible. And Daggercaster is actually more aggressive than Domri. Domri is pretty similar to Guardian Project. It's just going to draw me a bunch of cards. Really, that's what it's going to do best. I could even discard Domri. That would be the big gamer energy. That seems wrong. That seems really wrong, though. I'm not going to do it. Alright, opponent is down to 11. And just nothing? Just nothing. I don't... Maybe they're on all lands over there. Kind of want to actually skewer here, then. Oh, that's so pointless, though. That thing's got no toughness anyway. I could haste in a Spellbreaker. They block there, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That also just seems like it's just not necessary. I think I just attack and then play like Gatebreaker Ram. Have a bunch of backups. I suppose if I hasted out a Gruul Spellbreaker, then I would have Electro Dominance or Skewer for lethal. Actually, yeah, I could Skewer for lethal literally this turn. That might have been missed lethal. It would depend on how they blocked. Because they'd take 8. Actually, no matter how they blocked, they'd just have lethal there. Well, probably won't matter. I'll just play the Ram, because I can play the Spellbreaker with haste next turn. I feel like the my drafting and gameplay has been a little rough here. Actually, I feel like during the draft I got a pretty sick Gruul deck, but definitely the gameplay is a little rough. But I am trying to do my best here. It's just that I am drafting very, very late for me because I work overnights. That's also why I'm stumbling on my words a lot. Jesus. Oh boy. But yeah, in order to keep up with the videos a day, as the plan is, I'm essentially recording this at what is basically midnight for me. Because that is the one time that I had to record Ravnica Allegiance. Alright, so we're at 1 win and 1 loss. Not a terrible start. Perfectly balanced. Maybe we'll get a nice 50% win rate for our first run of Ravnica Allegiance. Hikaru 1989. Is this the chess grandmaster Hikaru? That would be very cool. But I doubt it. Alright, so we got our slow lands like usual. This is a really slow hand though, no creatures. I mean, Wrecking Beast is a creature, but it's not till turn 7. I think I got a mulligan that. And this looks really weird. but I'll definitely keep it. Because we do have the 2 mana, we can play Guild Mage for sure. We only have to draw 1 more land to cast everything else. I kind of want to get rid of Rhythm of the Wild here, actually, which feels wrong. With like 2 creatures I can play after I play Rhythm of the Wild, that seems like the thing I don't want to do. I guess I'll get rid of the Rubble Belt Runner. Alright, there's my 3rd land. They're all slow lands, but I'll take it. Solana Wayfinder will start the game for our opponent with a 2/1 out that searches the top 4 cards for a creature or land. They pick up an island. I do have an untapped land here. Do I want to play it turn 3 or do I want to play it turn 2? I could actually play it turn 3 and then the first spell I cast all game is Rhythm of the Wild, which will make all my creatures for the rest of the game larger. That could be pretty cool. Opponent leads it to a Steeple Creeper. I don't love that, because now I'm tapping out for nothing on the board and taking 6, going to 12. Definitely an argument for dropping down just like a Burning Tree Vandal, offering the trade with the Steeple Creeper there. With double Steeple Creeper with the blue mana to give them flying, I am now very worried about how slow my start is. That might just be it. I can only play 1 spell this turn anyway, so we'll play the tapped land. Play the Spellbreaker, I guess. It's going to be the biggest creature that will actually be big enough to block and kill a Steeple Creeper without dying, so that might get them to only attack with 1 Steeple Creeper. They actually attack with nothing. I love that. I didn't expect it to go that well in my favor. I would have expected them to just not play the Locket and still hit me for 4 in the sky. Now I can afford to cast Clan Guild Mage and Skewer the Critics on one of the Steeple Creepers. That seems like my best play. I definitely need to get these potential flyers off the board, because it only takes 3 hits from one of them to kill me. Oh no, there's a permanently flyer, the Chillbringer, and I'm just hitting lands here. Burning Tree Vandal is actually a really nice play here. With double Riot, I can put a +1/+1 counter and give haste. That way it'll trade for anything they block with. I'm probably just trading with the Wayfinder, but also, more importantly, I am discarding a card, drawing a card, looting, trying to hit non-land stuff. We, of course, just hit another land, but we tried. We tried there. We did get a trade out of it. Even if I put 2 counters onto the Burning Tree Vandal, it would still be a 4/3, and then I wouldn't be drawing a card till next turn, so then it would just be me trading for a Steeple Creeper next turn instead of the 2/1 that turn. And unfortunately, we literally have just hit lands here. So we were really digging for Gates Ablaze to maybe take over that game. Do 4 damage to everything. The only creature still on the board would be our Gruul Spellbreaker. That would have been an incredibly nice draw, but just hit a bunch of lands, which is unfortunate. I think Gates Ablaze is pretty much the only thing that could save me by the end there, but before then I could have got like Scorchmark to deal with one of the Steeple Creepers. That would slow them down a lot, or just another Skewer the Critics would do the same thing. Electro Dominance as well. Titanic Brawl would be great with a 5-power creature on the board. Definitely had some stuff to slow down our opponent, and then the one really good out to try to actually win the game. Well, that is 1 win and 2 losses. Let's head into our 4th round. See, I can't even do math right now. It's insane. No, after I admitted the whole being very tired thing, I was like, just fake it till you make it. That's how you get there. So last game I juiced it up. I got a lot of energy in there, so I'm feeling better now. I'm going to get in, and I'm going to play the best games of my life. I feel like the draft was pretty nice for the first draft back, but maybe I'm overvaluing how powerful gates are with my gate payoffs. I only have 3 of them, but I do still like having a lot of gates in here. Maybe I should be cutting all the gates except the Gruul Guild gates, but then I feel like Gates Ablaze barely ever does much damage at all. Because I only have 4 Gruul Guild gates. Maybe I have 5. I don't remember exactly. Either way, that is definitely one of the debatable things about this deck, is how many gates you really want to run. Okay, there we go. We did make it into a round. but I have a feeling this is going to be Magic Arena just messing up and giving us a draw. Yep. Unfortunate. As always, I will have the timestamps in the description to skip to whatever game is up next. And I also do, whenever I watch draft videos, I like to watch them at like 1.25 speed and stuff. But that might just be me. We'll see if we can get into an actual game. I am playing pretty much right when the set comes out, so the servers are probably experiencing a little bit of stuff, a little bit of issues, but certainly nowhere near as bad as like when a new standard set comes out, like Call Time or Zendikar or any of that stuff. Queues are definitely taking a while here. I really hope that Arena isn't having issues right now, because that would mess up my my recording schedule a lot. Let's see if the Arena Twitter says anything while we're waiting. If so, I'll have to post an update and do this later. Alright, do we get a real game this time? Okay, we do. Alright, sorry about that. As always, I highly recommend the timestamps, because stuff like that does happen. And I, unfortunately, do not... Ooh. Uh-oh, my mic is moving around. Do not super have the time or processing power to edit these videos often. I'm going to drop down a Rubble Belt Runner. Turn 3. We are against Orzhov and Azorius. We're against an Esper deck. With a Gateway Sneak, I hate that. I hate that a lot. So whenever that deals combat damage to us, they get to draw a card, and whenever they play a Gate, it can't be blocked that turn. I could Daggercaster plus Scorchmark if I ever hit 6 mana. I kind of like Domri here, actually. Simply because they only have 1 power creatures out. Domri does start at 5, and the only ability that would be useful for me right now would be the -3, which would put Domri to 2, which means they could just attack Domri for 2 and kill him. So I kind of want to wait on Domri for a second, because I don't really want to play Domri and then just get a mana and do nothing with it. That being said, that would put Domri at 6 loyalty. That's only 2 away from Domri's ultimate, and it would pressure them into attacking Domri. I think I'm just dropping Clan Guildmage here. Attack for 3, hold up a Scorchmark. Scorchmark not great against 3 toughness creatures, though. That is one of the things about it that makes Skewer the Critics definitely a bit better. But I can like block in such a way to try to surprise Scorchmark some damage in. So our opponent is on a high alert deck that makes all of their creatures assign combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power. I don't want them to just sit here and draw cards off of Gateway Sneak all game, so I'm actually going to 2-for-1 myself to kill it. Losing a bit of value here, but I'll gain it back by playing a Daggercaster, killing their Biomancer. So I get to kill one of their cards and get a creature of my own here. And now they just have Concordia Pegasus hitting me for 3 a turn. So that turns things around a little bit in my favor in terms of the board state right now. If they play Senate Courier, it's definitely right back in my opponent's favor. Senate Courier is one of the best common cards to work with high alert. So I totally forgot about this deck as well. There are a lot of fun build-around decks. You can try to do Goblin Gathering Cavalcade Calamity. That one's one of the weaker ones. High alert is one of the stronger ones. Clear the Mind is a strong one. And obviously Gates is another strong one. So there's lots of options. So yeah, now they have a 4/4 flyer that gets Vigilance for only 2 mana a turn, which means I can't even attack in well here. That is really rough. I think I just drop a Gate Colossus and maybe I can start attacking with that, but now I'm taking 7 in the sky this turn and 7 in the sky next turn. I'm dead in only 2 turns, and I can't viably attack into that, so I don't even have a way to try to pressure them. Oh, and now they drop a Verity Circle so they can slow me down with that as well. 5 mana to tap one of my creatures without flying, and they draw a card every time they do that. Really nice card if you're going for like a really slow game. What on earth are they holding up for 3 mana? I suppose, yeah, Gate Colossus literally can't be blocked here. So that's really good. Titanic Brawl was a great draw. Because, yeah, these don't technically have more than 1 power. So Gate Colossus just straight up can't be blocked, so they have to leave everything up as a blocker. Really weird that they didn't give Vigilance to Senate Courier. That means they're holding something up. For sure. Well, I'm gonna try to cast Domri, because I actually think I'd rather have Titanic Brawl resolve if this is a counterspell. Awesome. Okay. So I'm definitely going to Titanic Brawl now and just get him. Boom. That allows me to attack in with both of these. They can't block Gate Colossus. If they block Rebel Belt Runner, their only creature on board is gone. They can only afford to tap down 1 creature a turn. So now they tap down Gate Colossus and I hit them for 2. They go to 3. I really like how I played that. And it's not going to matter. Because here's a Chillbringer. Holds off the Dagger Caster. I can play the Spellbreaker with haste. If I play Spellbreaker with haste, I get in for 3. Because they're just going to block Dagger Caster. I don't think they're going to lose the Chillbringer. If I put a +1/+1 counter on this, it only has hexproof during my turn, so they could still keep tapping it, but they only have enough to tap 1 creature a turn. I think I want the +1/+1 counter because they can only afford to tap 1 creature a turn. So now they tap Gate Colossus. I attack with Gruul Spellbreaker. And they take 4, because they're not going to try to lose Chillbringer. I don't think I attack with Dagger Caster, because I think they'll just take 4 to the face and kill my Dagger Caster. Because they might, yeah, I was going to say, they're probably just going to take 4 to the face regardless. So no real point in just sacrificing the Dagger Caster. There's Concordia Pegasus. No, now they have 2 blockers. Now they tap Gate Colossus again. They can double block Gruul Spellbreaker. If I attack with both creatures, I think that's the play, actually. I have to attack with both creatures here. Because if I attack with just Gruul Spellbreaker, they double block it. But if I attack with both, they die either way. Because if they double block it, they die to the 2 damage from Dagger Caster. And if they don't double block it, that means they single block each creature. And Spellbreaker tramples over for 1. So that's actually just straight lethal. All right. We actually made it through the high alert. We probably could have made it through the high alert by just drawing cards off of Domri. Actually, no. I think we had to do the Titanic Brawl play there. I think sacrificing Domri definitely won us the game now that I think back on it. Because if I played Domri, I would be drawing 2 creatures out of the top 4, potentially. But then they would still have the Senate Courier on board, so they could give that Vigilance and just snipe Domri. So that would be the only thing I would get out of Domri, and they would still have the Senate Courier permanently from that point on, which would be able to trade with our other stuff and potentially just kill me with its Vigilance ability. So, actually, yeah, I really like how I played that one out, and I am going to keep this hand. This is one of the best hands we've drawn so far, I feel. Guildgate into Guildmage into Gatebreaker Ram with Skewer the Critics, and then a light up the stage to refuel once we've cast everything. Alright, start off with our Clan Guildmage. Opponent is on white, so they could be Azorius or Orzhov. They are starting off Orzhov with an Imperious Oligarch. pretty great at slowing me right down. Now I'm definitely not attacking this turn. I'll go ahead and play Gatebreaker Ram, turn 2. If I attack into the Oligarch, we trade and they get a 1/1 flyer. Grotesque Demise to kill the Gatebreaker Ram. Now they send in for 2, I take it down to 18. Here is Rubble Belt Runner then, and I will pass turn. Hazda Officer, pump up the Oligarch so it attacks in for 3 this turn, which means no blocks again. Oligarch is so good. If I attack with the Rubble Belt Runner, I'm trading with Hazda Officer probably. I could make it so the Officer can't block here. Could also just turn a land into a 4/4 and go for that. And it actually seems pretty good in this situation. Because I've got extra lands. These lands can super die. If they want to trade Oligarch and Officer for land, that is fine. Otherwise, I'm just getting 4 damage in there. Playing Guildgate tapped because obviously I don't really want to light up the stage with no extra mana up. Like to be able to potentially cast something the turn I play light up the stage instead of waiting on it. And I'm not going to skewer their 3/2 Hazda Officer. Definitely not going to skewer their creature with Afterlife. Alright, I think we do the same thing. Just going to keep suiting up a forest. Getting in there. Now they're only leaving Oligarch untapped, so I'll just swing in with everybody. Summary Judgment to kill the Rubble Belt Runner. But Forest is probably getting in. 12. I will go ahead and light up the stage here, I guess. 1 mana up. Alright. Soroform and Daggercaster. I can cast both next turn if I drop a land here. So I can play all that. That's pretty nice. And now we are playing against the strongest bomb in the entire set. Ethereal Absolution. 6 mana. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And for 4 mana, they can exile a card from our graveyard. And if it was a creature card, they get a 1/1 flyer, which is, of course, a 2/2 flyer. So they're definitely going to exile a runner whenever they've got extra mana, get another 2/2 flyer. I don't think there's a single way we could win from this point on. Daggercaster can't kill anything no matter what from now on. I can play Daggercaster and hybrid and just have some chump blockers, I guess. I'll do as best I can here, but Ethereal Absolution is nigh unbeatable, one of the best limited bombs of all time. I think I might want to actually skewer the Hazda Officer just to get more creatures off their board. Next turn I can throw a bunch of counters onto the hybrid, which could be big. That would turn it into a 5/5. The problem with that is a 5/5 is going to trade with Oligarch plus the Spirit token they can get from our graveyard, so even that doesn't super save me. Yeah, no, this is so bad. Because even if I pump hybrid, I turn hybrid into a 5/5, they'll make a 2/2. Well, Electrodominance is a good draw. I'm not going to attack with my hybrid here then, because now I can hold up an Electrodominance to try to get around the double block later. The problem... Oh my god, but now my Daggercaster's dead. So now they just get 2... Oh my god. I keep trying to figure out ways to beat this Ethereal Absolution, and just... They're immediately getting roadblocked when I'm like, wait a sec, what else does this do? Because I'm like, maybe I get an attack with a hybrid, get them to double block and Electrodominance them out of nowhere. But then I'm like, even if I do that, now that my Daggercaster's dead, they get another flyer, so they just have more 2/2 flyers here. Get in there. Sauriform hybrid, I believe in you. They block with the Oligarch? Do they just block with the Oligarch? Yeah, I guess they're just trying to do lethal flying, so they're just going to keep their flying tokens and beat me with them. If they don't even go for the double block, then yeah, I just have no chance, because now they're going to make another flyer. I suppose even if they did go for the double block because of the Afterlife trigger, they'd end up with 2 flyers here. Well, I am incredibly dead that game. That was a real rough way to end the first Ravnica Allegiance draft, but it certainly happens. I think the drafting process itself went pretty well. Maybe during deck building we could have done things a little bit differently. Maybe it's a deck where we definitely want to run less lands, but overall, I'm happy with the deck. 2-3 is not a record I'm happy with. I like to go at least 50-50, at least get that 3-3, and I don't really start being happy until 4-3, because that's when I get all the gems that I paid back out of it, so pretty unfortunate run to start it off, but not the absolute end of the world. I'm not incredibly disappointed in the way that I drafted or the deck I ended up with or anything. Just some bad beats there for sure. So, as always at the end of the video, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. And if you want to see more Magic Arena content, especially drafts, stick around on the channel. Tomorrow we will have an M21 Omniscience draft. We'll have that for a couple days, because those Omniscience drafts will be up only 2 or 3 days, just this weekend. But then after that, we'll be drafting a bunch of Ravnica Allegiance until Tinkerer Cube draft returns on January 15th. So if you're interested in any of that, just stick around right where you are on the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all the goodies, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow.